I hope that they know that people are remembering them, not only the families of the people who lost their lives, or even the families of those who survived and lived to tell the tale, because it must have been very, very traumatic for them, but the fact that there are strangers who still think it is important that these stories are told and that these men and women who are incredibly brave are remembered.
Do you know the story of HMT Lancastria? Probably not. Winston Churchill made sure you didn't. In June 1940, the Lancastria, former cruise liner turned troopship, was anchored off the coast of Saint-Nazaire in France. Almost 9,000 people were crammed aboard. Then, German bombers struck. Within just 30 minutes, the Lancastria sank beneath the Atlantic, taking between 4,000 and 7,000 lives, more than the combined deaths of the Titanic and the Lusitania. It remains the worst British maritime disaster in history, and Churchill ordered a news blackout. For decades, the tragedy was barely spoken of. But there is one place I never forgot. Every year, the Lancastria is remembered here at St. Katharine Cree, a church in the city of London. When the Lancastria Association, made up of survivors and families, began to fade as years passed, they asked this church to carry on their legacy. Now, Lloyd's choir, based at the church, holds an annual remembrance service. The choir was invited to take part in the annual service, which at that stage was held on a Sunday afternoon, and it was very well attended at that time because there were many survivors still alive, or the relatives of people who had lost their lives, and there were a number of people who came over from France also to remember those who had lost their lives on the Lancastria. Inside the church, a stunning stained glass window tells the story. The top half shows Christ walking on water, calming the storm. Below, you can see the Lancastria's upturned hull, smoke rising, and a small rescue boat rowing away. The lower panel, added in 2014, bears the ship's name and the date of the tragedy. The church even houses the Lancastria's original bell and a plaque honouring all who were lost at sea. This is a largely forgotten tragedy. The number of people who are thought to have lost their lives. I mean, the numbers are not exactly known. I think it's just important that we do continue to mark that and hold, just 2 minutes of silence to remember them and do what we can to keep that memory alive. The choir's conductor, Jake Cohan, was so moved by the story that he decided to compose a new piece to commemorate it, Lancastria. The initial section tried to evoke the chaos and the noise, the utter chaos of the moments after the Lancastria was hit. So you hear a lot of things which you can imagine is clanking of steel and the screams of the soldiers and so on, and it creates a very, very difficult picture, but it conveys it absolutely beautifully. And then after the choir sing the central section, there is the most extraordinary moment where he introduces a piper. The piper was actually at the back of the church where we performed, and you could just suddenly hear it, and it became louder, and I think it provided a very, very emotional end to the piece, and I guess that perhaps reflects the reconciliation that we have following a tragedy like that, and brings peace and reflection on what war is, and how we can remember the people who bravely fought and lost their lives. 85 years later, the Lancastria still lies beneath the waters off the coast of France, but in the small London church, her story continues, in song, in glass, and in memory.